Cleaning your canister filter can be a real pain, but there is one step in the process that can ruin everything if you don't get it right. So today, we'll talk about how to clean the Fluval 07 canister series. All right, so let's get this party started. You gotta have a couple things prepared in order to be successful. Number one, a 5-gallon bucket from a big box store right here at BRS. Also, a beach towel or something like that. I don't care how advanced you are as an aquarist, you are going to spill some water. So especially if you have a hardwood floor near you, get a towel. I actually like to have a separate little towel because your hands are gonna get wet as well. And then you've gotta have a siphon, like this Python tube right here, to do the water change. And actually, that's the cool thing about this process is you get kind of a twofer. You're going to both clean your canister filter and get a water change on the tank at the same time, because we gotta get that tank water in here in order to clean it. Step one, as always, you gotta unplug your filter, right? Okay, so the first thing you're gonna wanna do here with the 07 series is lift this up. They all have this system here that allows the tubes to detach as in one piece, so you don't have to worry about trying to pull these off. And it's going to lock the water or lock a valve so that the water doesn't drain out. Now, of course, you're gonna get some drips. This is where towels and things like that come in. But now your canister is ready to be removed from the base of your aquarium. Okay, now that you have it removed from the base of your aquarium, the number one thing to keep in mind before you start taking things apart, and this is where one of the mistakes can be made, is you've got to remember the order of your media. If you're not familiar with the order of your media or you want a reminder, go check out the video we have linked in the description below where we talk about exactly how to set up your canister filter. With that, we're going to take off these clips here, and you're probably gonna have a pretty good suction and you're gonna need to put a little bit of muscle behind it to lift this off. There we go. All right, cool. Again, lots of drip, so we're gonna set it out here on the towel. And one of the things people ask is, well, all of this stuff, all this yucky stuff here and the stuff that we pulled out of the tank into this bucket, isn't that gonna make things dirtier? Does it even make sense to clean in there? And the answer is yes, and this is where the mistake comes in that I mentioned before, which is if you do this wrong, you can ruin everything. And that is, I'm gonna take this media out and go clean it in the sink under chlorinated tap water or something like that. We are gonna clean all of this in the tank water to make sure all of the beneficial bacteria that was in here and that is helping serve this tank and keep this fish alive also stays alive through this cleaning process. So check it out. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm just going to pour this into my bucket. Like that. Obviously we don't wanna keep this stuff dry for long, but we won't, so don't worry about that. And we're gonna take this off and we're gonna inspect it. This is our coarse filtration. It's getting a lot of the bigger items like this, right? And so we're gonna put that in here, we're gonna give it a squeeze, give it a rinse, and then we're going to leave it in the water. One of the mistakes that gets made is you put this in and you squeeze it and then you go set it out on the ground. So when it comes to those sponges, now they have a lifespan, so take a look at them. If they're too dark, if too filled with crud or anything like that, just replace them. You can buy new ones online. That's no big deal. That's not gonna cause an issue with bacteria in the tank. Yes, beneficial bacteria is on those sponges, but the beneficial bacteria on your biomedia is what matters the most, and that's what we're gonna preserve, okay? So let's get into that next. All right, so this other side of a Fluval 07 series, on the 107 has 2 trays. On the 207, it's got 3 trays, for example. So we're just gonna pull them out using this cool little handle here, and we'll take them apart. Now, this is the order you gotta remember, right? Not too hard when there's only 2, but your large mechanical media is at the bottom. The water is being sucked up through here, so it's hitting this here first. We're gonna take that off as well. We're gonna give it a rinse here in our tank water and leave it there. And the biomedia, we're not gonna take out. We're not going to dump it in here or anything like that. We're just gonna leave it in the tray and we can just slosh it around in the tray a little bit like this. And really all we're trying to do is rinse off any large detritus chunks or anything like that that may have made it through the filtration. In this case, it looks like it's all pretty good. Again, the dirtiness of this water is not important. This is the safest water to be cleaning your media in. Now from here, it depends on your situation. If you notice that this whole filter canister is a mess, maybe you've neglected this for a little bit longer than you should have, then you could go take this over to a sink or a hose and you can rinse it off. But honestly, I think this is all in pretty good shape. So now it's just about putting it back together. All right, so when we put them back together, the order is going to be very important. Just remember that this is going to go in like this. which means you need to have your coarse mechanical hitting first. The water is going to be coming down this side first and then coming up this side. So coarse mechanical is going to be our more porous, bigger blue ones here. Again, we left everything in the water during this process, didn't set anything out on the ground to dry out. That's going to ruin everything that we are trying to do here, and certainly not going to keep your inhabitants safe. So we've got our medium mechanical come in here. This is the second part of the process as far as the water flow is concerned. It's going to go through this, and then it's going to get into a little bit more filtration and our biomedia. So now that we got that, we're going to set that in right here. Next, we're going to pull our trays out, okay? The biomedia is the last thing that the water hits. The water should be as clean as possible before it gets there, which tells us that it is tray number 2 in this instance, which means it's going to be in the top. Now, right now, we've got a little bit more filtration here. And again, it's kind of like 3, 2, 1. We're going thicker, a little bit less thick, and then a little bit denser, or the most dense, if you will, here on the mechanical filtration. And that's going to go in like this. And then our biomedia will slide in right through here. Now, before we put the lid on, again, you can add biomedia here, but definitely do not replace biomedia. That's just a PSA. As part of this cleaning process, that biomedia is always going to be in this tank. You can add more if you'd like, but do not take it out and replace it. You could add a fine filter floss on here if you wanted to. All that, again, is in our how to set up your canister filter video, link in the description. Okay, so now that we have it all put back together, one thing that you got to watch out for, and it's another mistake that can be made, is that if you put that lid back on and you activate the primer, it's going to fill up this canister like it's supposed to, but where do you think that water is going to come from? Right here. Now remember, we don't have a lot of water to spare, at least in this case. Maybe you do if you have a bigger tank, but right now I got to watch out. I can't have all this water get sucked into this canister filter just to fill it up, or I'm going to have no water left. So I'm going to take some remineralized RO water, and I'm going to fill the canister filter right here with really the exact same water that I otherwise would be filling the tank on a normal water change. I'm obviously not pouring back in any of the water that we were just using to clean this. And once I get it filled up, just like about there, now we're all set to go, and we're still gonna fill up the tank, but we don't have to worry about draining it. All right, so now it's time to put the lid on, and when you do, you gotta make sure that you have this set up correctly. The water comes into the filter from the tank through here, which means that we want that going through here, up through the impeller, which is coming out of here, so we gotta get these on the right side. Once you do that, you're gonna have to push it down a little bit to make sure you get the seal. Now, this is one of the fails that at least I experienced, was if I filled this too high, at this point when I go like this, you're gonna get a face full of water right through these 2 holes, all right? So just be chill with it. You're gonna see the holes fill up a little bit, and just don't push them down too hard, but also that's why we have a towel. All right, that one was pretty slick. Now I'm gonna get these latches sealed up. Now we're ready to put it back under the tank. Okay, so we got the lid back on. We're gonna put it back under the tank, but before we set it all up, or at least before we turn it on, we can certainly put this in first, push it down nice and solid. That's gonna flip down. Drop this latch as well. That's gonna open up the valves to these pipes. But before we plug it in and before we prime it, let's get that tank filled up. All right, so we got the tank all filled up. We're ready to go. We're ready to plug this back in. Just know that you might plug this back in and it might automatically start for you and you're good. If not, just pull this up and push it down a couple of times and you'll prime it and you'll be good to go. With that, let's get it plugged in and get this thing cranked up. So right here, if it doesn't start up, exactly what I'm saying, I'm gonna pull this up, push down, and I'm gonna prime, and it's going to get going in a second. You can see all the water starting to fly up there, and there it goes. It is running on its own, and we're all set. All right, well, I stayed pretty dry, and I hope you do too, and as you can see, this towel was definitely not a waste. See you on the next one.